obviously the situation like this, there's likely many perpetrators, not just the people impersonating this couple, but likely the realtor, the lawyer, others involved. But
you're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
We're back. New year, new me. 2023.
Love it.
What's going on, gentlemen?
How are shaking. Doing well.
Yeah, things are going on.
I've been getting a lot of messages. People wondering what's happening with the show. Where are you? I miss you guys. We love you.
Well, that's good.
Lots of love. Lots of love.
We took an extended little break. Yeah,
it was good. It was needed. We were just
shake off
talking
the Christmas cobwebs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean the market, as we all know, November, December was basically came to a halt, similar to the Ottawa light rail. And Greg, you mentioned you're offline for a couple weeks, and we're all spending time with family. And Dave, you're obviously in Florida, and there's just a lot of things going on. But I think everyone's rejuvenated, everyone's recharged, ready for a new year.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's not forget you're also in Colombia. Okay.
I am. Yeah.
So you're okay. So hold on. So Paul, you're in Colombia. Dave, you're in Florida right now.
Correct.
And I'm just back. Okay. From the cottage.
For now.
Not international yet.
Yes. Yeah. It's too bad. I hope we can get one episode where all three of us are.
It would be kind of cool. Yeah.
We'll get there.
Cool.
Yeah. So 2022 is an interesting year. We were talking briefly about the year-end stats, which we'll get into. But I'd say one of the biggest stories, we kind of ended the year talking about the year in review. Now we're looking forward to 2023, but to look forward, it helps to look back as well. So Canada, we have an article here. Canada welcomes record number of new immigrants in 2022, which is something that we obviously were harping on most of last year. The article by MSN.com, it says, new immigration numbers show Canada has again set a record for permanent residents, welcoming 431,645 approximately new permanent residents in 2022. The Liberals' immigration plan envisions steadily increasing immigration levels over the next few years, rising to 500,000 new permanent residents entering the country by 2025. So what does that mean for real estate, gentlemen?
Well, it's an interesting comment because that's permanent residence. That's permanent residence.
Yes.
So I don't know if you guys saw this, but in the first
Greg raises.
quarter, sorry?
Greg raises.
I'm raising, and this goes to prove what we've been saying. First three quarters of 2022, 776,000 immigrants came to Canada. So probably 1 million over the whole course of the year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's immigrants that have came. So the number that you gave is permanent now permanent residents. So we've had 1 million immigrants come to Canada over the year, and that doesn't change the amount of homes being built. So again, permanent residents, they talk about foreign buyers, whatever. Sure, a lot of people have already been here. They're already spending money. The more that come, the homes aren't being built fast enough. The demand is there. And that's what we said at the end, right? Kind of like, is it a supply issue or is it a demand issue?
Yeah, and that stat that you just gave, Greg, about close to 1 million, I mean, that's really an increase in our population by about 2.3% in a single year. When you break that out, and we've talked about it for the last several years when the market was crazy, and we were talking about lack of supply, and even when sales figures have decreased, we've been talking about demand still being there, just on pause because of where rates are and people wanting to see where prices end up. But when you have such an influx of people to the country, and so, and no set plan of where these individuals are going to be housed, that increases demand for the rental market, for the purchasing market, because those new permanent residents that Paul was just speaking about, they're right now they have a checklist for you to become a permanent resident where they're only allowing people with higher education. It's not just people in the trades or services or lower paying positions, let's say, they're looking for professionals, and they're really ticking those boxes of allowing primarily professionals in, and educated individuals, which then compete with their higher paying jobs. They've got savings. They were in good paying jobs before. I know I regularly speak to a number of permanent residents and people that just moved here that are, engineers, doctors, dentists, what have you. These are, they have savings already. They're coming and they're already with down payment in hand, ready to buy, or they've sold their house. I was helping a couple last week. They're, from Brazil. They sold their house in Brazil and they're, just got their permanent residency here. They're coming with significant down payment to purchase here. So it's not just the local demand, but also this influx of individuals. And again, it's not your service industry, and that's why we see in the economy of people of having a hard time filling some of these minimum wage jobs or service industry jobs, because it's that influx of new residents are not really picking up those, because they're really only bringing in higher paying professionals, so to speak.
And that's an interesting comment, because part of this article here that I'm reading from the Daily Hive, it says, as a measure to help address the immense labor shortage, falling birth rates, and ensure long-term economic growth, the federal government has been accepting far more immigrants over the last few years and intends to further grow this trend for the foreseeable future. And it also says that last year was the most immigration to Canada since ever. So it was since 1867.
Mm-hmm.
So let's imagine that is not going to slow down, because I don't think it is. People want to come to Canada. So,
and I mean, if you just look at we have a lot of room for growth. You look at the US and their landmass, and you look at our landmass, and I understand some of our provinces are not the best. Not exactly habitable. But I mean, we have 38 million people compared to 330 million. I mean, we have a lot of room for further immigration.
It says now 39.29 million.
It's
going to hit 40 quick.
Just like me.
As producer Steven says, California is bigger than us, the state of California,
population wise. Yeah.
Right?
And Greg, the other thing you mentioned, which I thought was very interesting too, about the permanent residence, is like, how long does it take people that immigrate to get that permanent residency? It's probably somewhere between, I'd imagine, 6 to 12 months. And then after that permanent residency to get, that's permanent residence, and then getting citizenship's obviously a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's probably double the amount of people, if not triple, that like permanent residents to people that have actually immigrated are in the process of getting their permanent residency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even just like, kind of without even any of those hypotheticals, like just going by those sheer numbers alone that they're reporting, not even just individuals in that, in that wheel, if you will, an increase of, anywhere from 1 to 2.5% of a population growth in a single year, you need a significant plan for housing these individuals. Canada hasn't and we need significant construction ongoing in the major metropolises, because people, yes, they're, when they're coming over as refugees or what have you, they're, a lot of landing spots are East Coast, like in Newfoundland and some of the other less populated areas, and, where they're trying to increase density and or increase populations. But a lot of those individuals eventually migrate to Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, a bunch of these others. And so we need that continued growth in cities like ours and others, and not just a plan within our city, but a plan across the country to direct these individuals to, because having people just come to Canada and, sit them on the rock in Newfoundland, the likelihood of them staying there is very unlikely, especially if you don't even have the housing and income or economy for them to thrive there. They're just going to be getting on a bus or a train or a plane and moving to one of the other major cities. So there just needs to be, there hasn't been, or at least I haven't read or seen, a clear-cut plan for this. So it'll be interesting to see how that ripple effect takes shape across, these next few years as they grow towards 500,000 PRs a year.
And a lot of these foreigners coming to Canada have money, like you said, and they'll, no foreign buyers, et cetera, patience, wait. At at that point, when you're talking about the major centers, especially like Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, in the news, I've been reading a lot of people, reporters reporting, saying that you should leave Vancouver and Toronto if you're a young person. They're saying, like, get the hell out of here. Like, you can't. You're not going to get ahead here. You're just going to, become depressed. You're going to have mental health issues because you can't survive if you want to stay in this city. You know what I mean? You need to have something set up. And so in terms of, which I thought was interesting because it was kind of promoting mental health for young people in terms of real estate and just lifestyle, basically saying you can't sustain, but the people that can sustain are the people that come from other countries and have that money to back them up. So I think that, already, we have such diverse communities in those major centers, but I think Vancouver and Toronto are going to see an even bigger influx of that. And then, a lot of the locals are just going to have to leave, or again, the younger generations are going to have to go to the smaller towns, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That's just the way that it's working. But the writing's on the wall as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree. So talking about Toronto, kind of just, we'll transition this into another article that came up a couple of weeks ago that some of our listeners might have seen. But Toronto homeowners returned from a trip abroad to find they'd been impersonated and their house sold. So there's an article in CTV News about this that I'm sure a number of people that are listening came across. If they have any interest in real estate, it probably popped up on their timeline somewhere. But this is certainly something that is very scary and worrisome for a homeowner, to even consider that this sort of thing happens or how this happens. For those of you that wonder or that have bought a house, that wonder what title insurance is for when you're signing that closing documents with your lawyer and there's title insurance put on the property, it's to cover you for things like this. The title insurer, FCT or FNF, are the ones who go to bat for you. And from a lawyer standpoint, you're not out of pocket. And from reimbursing the buyer for their funds and the banks and all that, that's what title insurance comes in and plays a hand in. Obviously, the situation like this, there's likely many perpetrators, not just the people impersonating this couple, but likely the realtor, the lawyer, others involved. But it's pretty wild to kind of read these types of stories.
Yeah. So can you break down or even just give us an excerpt from the article explaining like exactly how that could happen? Like, it seems impossible, right? That you go away for a few months and your house is.
So really, this article is about a couple that went out of the country back home for several months. When they came back, just as it states in the headline, they came back. They found that there was a new family in their house, and their house had been sold out from under them. What had happened is when they'd moved away, somebody had likely changed locks or come in, pretending to be them, fake ID with their, the original homeowner's, name and information on it, date of birth and all that. And then having to, they're contacting a realtor, or they know, and that's where it becomes like, the realtor possibly involved, is that they're, impersonating, like they know who's being impersonated, or as a realtor, you're checking ID and, they're doing base level confirmations of who owns that property or the names that are on title. So they're maybe looking at a driver's license for their disclosure documents, but that's really it. So in this case, they have a fake ID purporting to be the original owners, and then going ahead and listing and selling that house. Again, lawyer, whether they're involved or not is to be seen. Who knows? But again, the lawyer is supposed to be checking ID to verify that it's this couple. However, they come with a fake driver's license and fake visa. That's the two pieces of ID that's really being verified. They likely could even pass through a lawyer, but in most cases, it's multiple people involved in it. And so it kind of ran through that, and they listed it. They listed it on the market. Now, sometimes, and I have seen presentations from FCT, which is the title insurer, First Canadian Title, where it'll be even more widespread than that. It'll be the realtor, the people impersonating, the lawyer, sometimes the banker. We saw that on that CBC that CBC special. And then even the other side of the buyer being fake as well, where they're taken somebody else's ID to get that mortgage. So the money's flowing from a fake person through this property out to these fake sellers, and they're taking all of this money and running with it. It's, we've said it, and I tell clients when I'm working with them, we do ask for a lot of documentation as mortgage brokers, and typically more than the banks, because we're actually scrutinized more than the banks as mortgage professionals. We get audited much more frequently. We don't have the veil of, a TD or an RBC kind of banner. And so we're scrutinized much more heavily. I don't like asking for documents from clients. However, we have to verify income and that you're the proper person, and we're always on the lookout for fraudulent documents and things like that. And the reason why I bring this up is because we have to do our due diligence. Real estate is the number one method for fraud in Canada and for money laundering to the tune of billions of dollars in Canada alone. And so this is, and a lot of them are in centers like Toronto and Vancouver, where the home prices are $1 million plus. But certainly something that, you might not think it, but it's things like this that go on, or people falsifying documents to falsify income, saying that, I make $40 an hour instead of 38. Well, I mean, that's mortgage fraud. If you've fabricated a pay stub or a letter of employment, there's many ways in which fraud happens, and not just as, clear cut as this, but it is extremely widespread.
I'm curious to know what will happen to the realtor and the brokerage, if anything, in terms of the rules, rules and regs.
I think it'll come out I think all of that will come out with the police investigation, with FCT's investigation, and the banks, because obviously the banks are out hundreds of thousands of dollars, because likelihood is that money went into somebody's account, they withdrew it, and it's in another country, and they're in another country. The
big RICO case for sure. Yeah.
So it's, and then it's a matter of whether they can identify that that realtor or that lawyer was involved. Because like I said, when you're, Greg, I'll put you on the spot. When you're listing a property, you're typically just checking a driver's license. I would imagine a property tax statement, and, they've got the keys and it's maybe their photo on the wall. So it seems like, that's their house. They know their way around, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it could be an unassuming realtor that just,
they would have to be,
you would never expect that, right?
It could be, but I gotta say, when you're doing something like that, when you're listing a property, man, you get a vibe. If these guys actually pulled the wool over whoever their realtor was, and they have to be outstanding con people, excuse me, because that is just the vibe alone, not getting a sense of this feels kind of weird. Maybe I should step back. These guys must be incredible actors to do that.
Yeah. No, it's
my question is, with those photos, is that the homeowners or is that the
these are the owners?
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't like mugshots, so that's why I was wondering.
I know.
Who's robbing who is the question.
No, those are as far as it from this article, and this is a number of days ago. They were still looking for more information on this, on who, any details or people that might know anything about it, to find these people. So
that's crazy. I mean, when you think about that CBC marketplace and all the, the fraudulent stuff that's happening, I think it's Brampton or kind of Toronto area. And then you have this sort of stuff happening. I mean, I guess anytime there's the economy, there's a lot of people that are struggling. So obviously you would expect crime, or at least fraud in that fashion, to increase. But this is a whole different level of fraud. This is, like you said, Greg, this is like catch me if you can type con work, if the realtor wasn't involved.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way.
Great movie.
So last year, I think around May or June, we kind of made predictions about the year-end growth in Ottawa. And I believe we were met with a lot of criticism, saying that we're only optimistic. We only see, green and pink and rainbows. And I think our prediction was somewhere between 6 and 8% growth.
Yeah.
Somebody will find it, I'm sure, in a past episode. And I think the year end was 7%. Is that what it was?
Yes.
7% year over year. And for clarity, this is finishing the year December 31st, 2022, compared to December 31st, 2021, for residential freehold homes, was up 7%. So I just like to give ourselves a pat on the back, for we will still try and go back and find that episode for for historical proof and evidence. So, but if anyone else remembers the exact episode, please do remind us.
But yeah, I think it would be good to go over the stats from last year and make some predictions for 2023, just so we have we know what episode it was. First episode of the year, we made predictions. It'll be easy to find.
Yeah, we said
writing.
I've got some stats here from December, and then I think we were going to bring up another stat for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that on my just back to work platform here. But last year in December, overall residential sales prices, we were down 7%. 660,000 was the average sales price. Basically, 57 days on market average, up 95%, which is crazy. Number of sales down 22%, 466. It's wild. December was, it was more of the same. Condos were up. Condos have just kind of been maintaining their status, which is very intriguing. I will say, I want to see where that goes this year. Days on market way up, 66 days, 80%. And then number of sales was down 50%. But the prices of the condos are still up. They went up and maintained more than residential homes. But I mean,
can you chalk that up to investors, like people, like the rental market increasing, people buying, like more active in the condo market?
I think the condo market was more active because more people could afford them.
Just price point.
Price point, and even with the fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to rent a condo if you're buying as an investor, generally. And it's easier to get in, and like I've said this on the show before, like I've met with people multiple times where they want to spend their money, put it all in one place, and then I say, for what they, maybe it's a single person or maybe it's a couple, I say, why don't you get something smaller and buy two? I go, buy one for yourself, I go live in it for a few years, and then buy another one and rent it out. Of course, most people didn't listen to me, and some are regretting that, but it's it's the best. I think it's the most stable way to place your money in real estate now. Is to stay low, like in the condo purchase price point, and get started. And ironically, I was kind of surprised. I've got calls from people that I didn't close with last year who had other plans, like they were going to sell, they decided not to sell, or we couldn't sell. Some that wanted to buy for themselves, and then they just couldn't get what they wanted. And I put it in their head. I said, I said, don't worry about that. Just get something smaller as an investment, get in the game. And then now they're calling me back. I have 2 calls booked actually today with people that called me and said, like, we've been thinking about what you said and just looking at the market, and we want to get in the game. So what do you think about buying something at a lower price point as an investment, and we can just stay where we are? And I'm like, you guys are bang on. And that's what I think is important, because I also don't know what's going to happen in the spring market. I'm really, I'm kind of excited for it, to be honest, because I think it's going to be, I think a lot of people are going to get a bit of a wake up call, and things are going to happen that they're not expecting.
Yeah, I think some of the numbers for the year over year are pretty interesting. So to your point, I have them here. Is for the condo sale price from year over year, condo sale prices were up 8% from 2021, and residential sale prices up 7% from 2021. So I know people saw, and people are wondering, how the heck is that possible? Really, that's, again, December 31st, 2021 versus December 31st, 2022. And prices escalated from January through probably April, roughly. Yeah. And really kind of skyrocketed, but then rates started, bank prime started increasing, and then prices started coming down. But so they kind of have peaked and kind of leveled off, but it's still where we finished the year off was in that, at a higher year over year figure. And then which I thought was really interesting and telling. Obviously, like I said earlier, great to see that our predictions were pretty well bang on. But further to that, the number, the sheer dollar size. So condo sales as an overall, the number of units decreased by 25% year over year, and the total sales volume was in 2022 was $10.5 billion in sales in 2022 compared to 13 billion in 2021. Obviously still a healthy figure of transactional volume.
Greg, I wanted to quickly touch to that point about where people should be placing their money, what the best properties to invest in. We recently started being very active on TikTok and YouTube Reels, and one of the most commented on TikTok posts was you talking about new builds being one of the best investments right now. New builds closing in sort of 2024, getting in now, and rates will probably be lower then, and prices will probably be up by then. And just talking about new builds being an investor, and also builders being a lot more accommodating for buyers and realtors and so on. So do you still kind of feel that way? I think that episode was maybe from 2 months ago or so. Do you think that's still a good place for people to put their money right now as investors?
I know of two builders that dropped their price about 100 and 150,000 per unit, and they almost sold out within the first 2 weeks of doing that. And those are closing 2024. So I thought that was amazing. Some of them are closing sooner, but still, they were all sitting high. I haven't talked to enough of the builders that I was speaking with before the price drops happened, but I'm going to be doing some more follow-up on that. I think that's interesting, and I do believe that right now. I also believe that. Sorry, I don't know if I'm going off topic a bit here, but in terms of new builds, I think I mentioned it before. I think there's going to be more builders adding units in the basement, and I think that there's going to be more people teaming up to buy new builds in packages or a couple with multi-units, and I think there's going to be more team buying in terms of new builds or in terms of anything for 2023. But yeah, I mean, new build, now that the prices are where they should be, absolutely.
I'd love to see a stat. I'm sure it's out there, but I wouldn't have access to it, quickly. But from an immigration standpoint, like what countries or continents those people are immigrating from? Because I know we've talked about this in the past, but there are a lot of cultures that do believe in having like the whole family living together, right? Like parents, kids, nieces, nephews, etc. So, with the immigration increasing, that, to your point, Greg, will probably shift also the way that people are living in their homes, not just buying, but also how many people are in each home, and having those additional, granny suites and in-law suites and things like that added to the house to accommodate the larger families. Yeah.
And that's the thing too. So just us as Canadians, like Canadians, born Canadians, our lifestyle is, or it was initially, go to school, get a job, get out of the house, 1 or 2 kids or whatever. Whereas, other cultures, the way that they operate is, get an education, get a job, work together as a family, invest together as a family, always roll as a family. Mm-hmm. So with more of that coming here, you're exactly right. The investments the demographic for these investments is changing, and the builders are going to have to do that. So I think there's going to be more of multi-generational new builds happening. I think there's going to be bigger condos being built. I think there's going to be 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom condos being built in the next couple of years, just to stay in the urban center. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to be the biggest change at all, because we still, as Canadians, like it says they want immigrants they want people to come to Canada, because as the Canadians, born and raised Canadians, we are not having children, and we are not taking the jobs to maintain like the trades and stuff like that. There's not as much of us doing it anymore. So we need it to build the infrastructure of the country and maintain that.
So this is so to your point, and Steven, sorry, got us the statistics for 2021 for distribution of new immigrants. So I'll touch on that in 1 second. But my girlfriend is Colombian, as I'm sure I've mentioned. But she actually was saying, like, in Colombia, it's very normal for people to stay at home until they're 30 in their early 30s, because you don't leave home until you're married, or you leave the country or what have you. In Canada, like, I was out of the house at 17 years old. Like most people, as soon as you turn 18, you're either going away for university, or once you're away for university, then you stay in that city, or you create a life outside of the home, and that basically, your parents are empty nesters by the time your kids are 20 or 22 years old. Whereas in other cultures, that might be an additional decade later that they're empty nesters. So that also will play an impact, I think. Distribution of new immigrants arriving in Canada in 2021 by country of origin. So 32% from India, 8% from China, 4.3 Philippines, 3.8 Nigeria, 3.2 France, 3% USA, 2.9% Brazil, 2.8 Iran, 2.1 Korea Republic, and 2% from Pakistan. So pretty wide range.
I was gonna make a comment that I felt that was the biggest immigration demographic. That's a lot.
32%.
I mean, I'm working with two couples from India right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who are fans of the show.
Hello to them.
Shout out.
So gentlemen, I don't know if you saw my note, but we have been recognized and we have been nominated as the podcast of the year in Ottawa for the second year in a row.
Saw that.
Through the Faces Magazine Awards. And voting is going to start on January 15th. So anyone who's listening, whoever nominated us, thank you. And for anyone listening, if you believe that we are the top, if we're your favorite podcast, even if you just like us mildly, please vote on January 15th. We'll post a link in our next episode. That'll be next week. And it's great, guys. It's nice. It's always nice to be recognized for your hard work. And I feel like, we try our best. We do our best. Here we are.
We do.
Another year 3.
And I'm excited about that. And I also want to give a shout out to whoever's been talking about us on Reddit, because the last couple people that I've spoken with, they said that they got my name, they contacted me after reading reviews on Reddit and then watching the podcast. So whoever that is, that I was kind of blown away. It wasn't the referral, or it wasn't that I was expecting at all. Where did you hear from me? Reddit. There's people talking about you on Reddit. I'm like, okay, amazing. I guess that's good. I'm like, where are the bad comments on Reddit? Are there any?
It's funny. I had someone reach out to me this week, and they left me a voicemail. I called them back, and the first thing they said, I said, his name was Hamid. I said, hello. He said, hey. He said, I just want you to know that your signs work. I said, excuse me? He's like, your street signs. He's like, I was over by IKEA, and I saw one of your signs, and I scanned it. Gave you a call. I was like, really? So it's hilarious where leads come from. And if you don't ask, like, I'm going to get better in the habit of asking, like, where, I think I do a good job of asking where the leads come from, but yeah, especially listeners of the show, and with TikTok and Reels and all that, I think people are just, they just stumble upon it and then listen and then think, well, yeah, we'll call Greg, maybe I'll give him a shout.
So I think earlier in the episode, we said we were going to give some predictions for the upcoming year, though.
Mm-hmm.
Before we log off here for this episode, I think we need to timestamp it. What do you guys feel the price increase or decrease will be this year? Where do you think rates will go? This might be more directed at Paul and myself. And where do you see sales volume, so number of transactions, up, down, for first 2022? Who wants to start?
I'll start. I would say, so I think there was just under 16,000 transactions last year. I think down from 20, if I remember correctly, 20,000. So I believe, this is my optimism hat going on, but I think we're going to see another strong year of growth. I think with the way the year ended last year, the pendulum's going to swing the other way in the spring market. I think we're going to see probably year end, probably another, I'm going to say 6 to 7% growth this year in prices. And I think as far as transactions, I think we're probably going to get closer to that 20,000 mark. I think we're going to see a lot more people transacting this year. I think last year with all the rates increasing, people were timid, a lot of people on the sidelines. I'm going to say 22,000 transactions. I'm going to say 6.8% growth. And I'm going to say that the prime lending rate, the overnight rate, is going to drop year end by a quarter from where it is currently.
Like a quarter point or?
Quarter point, yeah, quarter point. And it might go up. I think January we may see another increase, unfortunately. But I think by year end, we'll probably see a couple decreases near the end of the year. And I think we'll end the year down 0.25%.
I definitely agree that the rates going down, the previous prediction of around summertime is going to change to fall. I think we're probably going to go up again. I think prices are pretty much where they're going to stay. I think we're going to see 5% increase year over year this year. I think there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be new builders planning different designs this year. I think that's going to be a change that we're going to see for sure. And again, I think there's going to be more fractional ownership, more partnership investments going on. I had one other point I wanted to make. Totally forgot about it.
Rates, transaction numbers.
Transactions are going to be up. Sales are going to be up. The one thing that I am predicting this, and this is going to happen soon. So, January 9th,
buckle up.
Buckle up. I feel that the spring market is going to be more aggressive than people think it is. And I'm concerned for people that are stuck in this limbo of losing some purchasing power over the last few months and still have not bought anything based on not that much inventory being available, because the nice ones that come out are still priced higher than what they can afford. And the ones that are available to them need a little bit of work, but they're not pulling the trigger on getting in the market. So I'm worried that when the nicer properties start coming out, there's going to be 20 of that buyer sitting around that will find a way to get the money to get that property, or for it to sell over asking potentially because it's well done. And some of these other people, and then at that point, if the prices go up slightly, then they're stuck. And then they're buying something worse than what they can get right now, regardless of the upgrades and the updates that they have to do. So I'm being very, without pushing, because it's not my job. It's my job to educate and inform. It's like, but that's my prediction. I think anyone that is having a hard time choosing a property right now should definitely be getting into something, because I think there's things will explode, whether it's in a big way or a small way. By the time the end of February comes around, we're going to be rocking, I think.
I'm going to make mine short. We've been running over time. No, I'm going to say 20% increase in sales year over year from a number of units. I think the price increase will be 7.5%, somewhere between 7 and 8% year over year. And I think rates for bank prime either stagnant from where we are now, so still at prime at 6.95, or following through with Paul, down 0.25 point, but that's really only if we start seeing some inflation coming down. And there was very strong employment numbers that came out this week, which aren't going to help inflation, with 104,000 new jobs added in December. But I think I don't think we're going to see much in the way of increases over the year. So we'll see how things progress over the year. This is, not us just being, I feel, not just us being optimistic about the Ottawa market, just in general, bullish of the Ottawa market because of all of the topics we keep talking about of employment and lack of supply and immigration to a major city.
And another point to that we can't forget is there's a lot of shit going on in the world right now. And these things can change all of this in a heartbeat. Yeah. And people need to be mindful of that as well, because there's a lot going on. So don't just look at the real estate market. If you're into real estate, look at the global effects of everything that's happening in the world right now, just to help you help get your heads around things, I feel.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to your point, Greg. Like I'm feeling like I'm being conservative, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a booming spring market just with people. But exactly like you said, those people, it's the same thing we say all the time. People that we're waiting on the sidelines. We think the prices are going to go down a bit. We're waiting until rates come down a bit. And then people are out buying, prices go up, rates come down, and it's too late. So, there's never a perfect time. Best time to buy was yesterday. The second best time is today, Should we slide
wait, Paul,
Yes.
that comment means you're greedy. That comment means you're a greedy mortgage broker and all you care about is money.
That's true.
Right?
I should specify too. There's 2 mortgage agents and 1 realtor on the show. So everyone who keeps commenting about these 3 realtors, always bullish.
Oh yeah.
No.
We're all so greedy. Yeah. If anyone knew what my life was like the last 3 months. Full of greed. Right.
Mood boost. I got 3 today. I tried to come with the heat. So here we go. Number 1, how do you impress a female baker? You bring her some flowers.
Oh.
Flowers. Number 2, why did the poor man sell yeast? To raise some dough.
Oh, I like that.
Lots of baking references.
I like that.
Last but not least, number 3, nobody's seen the Zamboni driver, but I'm sure he'll resurface eventually.
I like these.
That's great.
My dad actually got me a new calendar of dad jokes for 2023.
There we go.
So we'll be fired up. We will never be short of jokes.
He'll resurface eventually. Amazing.
Thank you to everyone for listening. Again, thanks for the nomination for the Faces Awards.
Yeah.
And we will be back next week. We're back on track here every Tuesday, 10 a.m. YouTube, all your streaming platforms. Make sure to subscribe and follow along. And if you haven't already, check us out on TikTok and on YouTube Reels. You'll get kind of little shorts from the episodes. Some are pretty hilarious. So, gentlemen, have a great week. Great to be back.
Great to be back.
We'll see you next Monday, Tuesday,
Deuces.
Wednesday. Okay, deuces.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe because we'd really like that.